Now, it's day 2 and the final day of the voters' registration today. Tell us more about yesterday's registration procedures.
Well, good morning, Tumelo. What I can tell you is that the issue of residential addresses and its validation continues to be a bone of contention. You'll remember that just late last year, the Constitutional Court ruled in favor of independent candidates who were questioning the manner in which the IEC administered and ran the Tlokwe by-elections. Now, of concern, rather, is that there seems to be problems with regard to the verification of those particular residential addresses. And as you pointed out in your introduction, the IEC says that the issue of residential addresses is not a prerequisite in a sense. But to talk more about this issue and to explain more about what's going to happen going forward, particularly for the parties which are vying for by-elections here at Tlokwe and consequently this year's local government elections, I'm joined by two gentlemen. One is Chris Harding from the Democratic Alliance and Ntate Musiani, who's going to be joining us a little later on after we've spoken to the DA. Mr. Harding, the issue of residential addresses, as the DA, does it concern you?
Yes, we have got reasons to be concerned because of what was clearly a collusion between the ANC and the IEC in the previous 2013 elections, and there are court judgments on that. So the addresses is very important, and I cannot understand that the IEC says it's not really very important because Electoral Act Clause 16.3 promulgated in 2003 already put the obligation on the IEC to provide addresses. They haven't done so. And the IEC is making a big emotional issue out of this, claiming ruralness, etc. But many of those people living in those areas, even living in Potchefstroom in the Tlokwe Municipality, do have cell phones and they have RICA applications. They have bank accounts. They've got FICA references. We think it's taking it a bit too far, and perhaps it should be addressed. What we experienced in the past 2 days is a large degree of inconsistency by IEC officials. Some of them clearly do not know what they're doing here. Some cannot read the maps. They do not understand maps. In some places, even if you have to check your registration status, you have to fill in a form, even if there's a long queue behind you. Some other places they just scan you and tell you you're okay and you can go. Inconsistency, it appears that the IEC still, even in this highly contested municipality, Tlokwe, Potchefstroom, still have to invest a lot more in training staff and getting the right staff. Some of the IEC staff clearly do not have the capacity to fulfill their roles in the voting stations, while others are excellent at their job. But we have the inconsistency that people really do not know what they must do, and everyone is going off on its own tangent.
How is it important? I mean, this issue of residential addresses. Are you worried that people can be buzzed in and vote for these by-elections and also during the local government elections, as this was an allegation that was made by independent candidates?
Well, we saw it in the 2013 by-elections. People were buzzed in. People received their ID books when they disembarked from the buses and then they voted. They do not even live in the Northwest Province. And I think all the facts are in front of the court. So yes, that is what we are afraid of, specifically in by-elections. Obviously, in a national election, it's not that important because a person can only vote once. But we are concerned. We are concerned about procedures. We are concerned, for instance, in by-elections on what's happening during special votes. We have got a lot of concerns. The IEC got exposed. And it appears that the IEC really tries to, at one stage, try to get it right. But what we see now at the voting stations, it appears that the IEC wants to shrug off the responsibility to provide addresses.
Okay. Now, let's talk to Ntate Musiani of the ANC in the Tlokwe local municipality. Ntate Musiani, do you think that the criticism that has been leveled against the ANC by the DA in that there was collusion between you guys and the IEC is justified?
Not even the Constitutional Court said that. There's no such determination by the Constitutional Court. The issue here is the issue of the addresses on which the Constitutional Court addressed itself. So it's quite disingenuous of my friend to make that allegation.
Does the issue of residential addresses, though, concern you as the ANC in the Tlokwe local municipality?
Well, we've got our representatives in the IEC in a structure called the PLC. They have agreed with all the parties involved that, as a matter of fact, you might find that there are places which are not proclaimed by law as residential areas and therefore, consequently, will not have addresses. And it was agreed in that meeting of the PLC that there will be landmarks to indicate that if there is no address, that this is where I stay next to that corner. There must be landmarks on which the IEC can verify that indeed this person is staying there. It's a matter of fact that there are other areas which are not proclaimed and do not have addresses. And we must find a way in which we can identify that indeed those people stay there. And that agreement, we thought it was made in the PLC. It is the truth that other places don't have addresses. The IEC is not giving addresses to people, by the way. And we will not protect something that is not there. What we know, as a matter of fact, is that there are those areas, like in Marikana, for instance, where you might not have address, but you must be able to indicate that this is where I stay, because those people went there, they were not put there, there's no proclamation that that area exists.
Okay, now regarding that, for the past 2 days, including today, there's been some inconsistencies with regards to how the IEC is rolling out voter registration, particularly here in Tlokwe. What is your feeling regarding that?
Well, our only concern with the IEC was that yesterday they opened some of the stations very late to our expectation, and that will take it up with them. But that mistake of time, we're not going to go out and bash the Independent Electoral Commission because they open late. We must, of course, raise that issue in the PLC. That is why there are PLCs where all the parties sit and attend. If there is an emergency matter, the DA, like all other parties, have the right to go to the PLC and say, this is an issue, let's address it. They've got those avenues. This cheap populism is not worth it.
Strong views coming there from both the DA and ANC in the fiercely contested Tlokwe local municipality. It will be interesting, Tumelo, to see how the IEC will respond to this debacle. For now, it's back to you guys in the studio.
Well, thank you so much, Sello Tatai, SABC reporter based in Northwest. Now, of course, that was a conversation he was having between the ANC and the DA regarding some residents from Potchefstroom, of course, who are based there and who have been expressing their disappointment regarding, finding their names and finding them not having to appear on the voters' roll. Now, we understand that Tlokwe has been in the news following the suspicion of by-elections last week due to court verdicts regarding problems, of course, with the voters' roll there.